Hello everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to use your scraps to make 2 quick and easy all-occasion greeting cards. So we're going to start with this one in the middle, which is more of a 3D version and a little more complicated, and then we'll come back to these others too. First I'm going to show you the example I've already made here, and I just used a blue piece of card, already made card. I don't know what I'm calling this, but anyway, it has a little bit of texture, but I already had this and I just glued things on top of it. And then you have this 3D flower, which it's best to use scraps of double-sided cardstock if you want to have something other than white showing through, but as you can see, not a lot of it shows through. Then I have a scrap piece of yarn and some pink scraps as well, and a printed out sentiment, and you can always use a stamped out one or even a die cut, but that part is completely optional how you want to personalize it. It can just be the flower as well. So for this one, since we're nearing, it's getting closer to Mother's Day, that's the sentiment I've chosen. Let's go ahead and get started making it. For starters, you'll need a card base. I've just used some white cardstock, and for this one, I've done a top fold, and so I've cut the 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper at 4 1/4 inches, so along this way, and then just folded it at the top to make this card base. This card here was a pre-made card base, but I also have made some that are side folding, and in that case you would be cutting your 8.5 11 inch piece of cardstock at 5.5. Had to think for a second there. So first of all, I think we're gonna start with I have a circle punch. You can hand cut this out, but this is going to be, I'm gonna set this aside, my base for building my 3D flower. So I'm just gonna take a scrap, since this is glorious use of scraps video here, and I just have white. It doesn't even matter because this is all going to be covered up. Now, to help myself visually, I'm going to eyeball the center, kind of just make a little dot in the center because I want my flower to be centered. Then I have a paper pad here that I've had for a while. Actually, look at that. I got it at the thrift store for $1. That's a pretty good deal for a 6x6 paper pad of double-sided cardstock, and I think it was mostly complete. I'm going to pull out a sheet. I have this lovely blue pattern, which I'm going to want for the outside of my flower, and it's a subtle pattern on the other side. So I need a symmetrical heart punch for this 3D kind of design. You can hand cut it out, or you could print out a heart that it needs to be symmetrical in that the right side is kind of the same as the left. So basically we're going to fold these directly down the center, so that's why you want it to be symmetrical. I think most hearts are, but yeah. So you can do this with other shapes too, but this is the petal. And this cuts through thick, but I'm just going to use it individually. And you need 8 of these hearts. So obviously this is kind of a full sheet of 6x6, but I didn't use it all. This is just for demonstration purposes. So this punches out beautifully. If you know how much, you want 8 of the same piece of paper. If you know how much you have, if you have a thick punch, you can fold in half, punch through multiple layers. So let's go ahead and gather those. For the purposes of video, I have all 8 punched out already. Let me see, make sure I have enough here. 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we're going to take our little heart, and you decide which pattern you want on the outside and fold it in half. And since I want this blue on the outside, I'm folding it this way. Of course, if you do that wrong, you can always just flip it back around. So if I had it this way, it's going to be a more plain flower. Oops, it's jumping around. And that might be, if you have a busy, if you want a busy background paper, you might want to use the more subtle side. It's all according to what you have and what you're working with. So for now, I'm going to stick, if I can get my glue to work, so just a little bit of glue on there to get myself started. And if you have a glue gun, that would work fast, or a tape runner, whatever. You just need adhesive here. And I am super visual and actually pretty prone to making mistakes, so I have the other example, but I also have this example here. that I have done, and this is my visual reference, so I don't get them going the wrong way, because there is a directionality. So this heart right here, you see, is laying the opposite. I want to flip it over. I want all of my flat spines to be facing the left side, and I am going to just overlap that center point. So I'm going, the very, very tiny tip of my heart is going just past the center, and I'm placing it into my glue. And in order to get these even, I am going to try it this way and see how it goes. Now first, again, visual, easy at making mistakes. So I'm going to make sure I have mine the same, and I'm just going to follow it around to this side. And I probably need a little more adhesive. Because you see, it's coming off. I couldn't find my my tacky glue. This is a tacky glue, but it's not my Aleene's tacky glue that I usually have on my desk, and I don't know what happened. I lose things a lot. More often than I would like to admit. Alright, so we followed it around. Now, we're going to go ahead and go to this point, and I might just add a little bit more adhesive right here. Make sure they're all going the same direction, and place this down. And really this scrap here, this circle, is just so that I have something to put them on and make it a little easier. It's an anchor point. So now another one, following it around and placing it. So this way I have it very even. Now if you can do that without doing it in the cardinal directions way, go for it. I just know that I don't always get it right. And so this way I have it pretty evenly spaced. And now I'm going to fill in these gaps with my other petals. Again, making sure the flat edge is on the left. And I want them to be even, but I do want them to just overlap ever so slightly. And don't worry if your center looks unattractive, shall we say, or maybe not as attractive as you would like, because here's the thing, we're going to cover that up. So that is not a problem at all. Whoops, oh great, I dropped it, so now I have to figure out which side this is. That one again. Last but not least, we have this one going right here. And you'll want to give this, if you're using liquid glue like myself, you want to give this a little minute to dry for sure. So let's go ahead and press it down, you know, give it a minute to dry. Although while it is drying, if you feel like something's not exactly where you want it, if you're using the liquid glue, not the hot glue, you have a moment to adjust things. So now you're going to want to find all those buttons you've been hanging on to, or if you don't have buttons, no problem. Anything, really anything mixed media, even another circle punch. Even a circle punch that has a couple hole punches out of the center that looks like a button, a sticker, anything you're going to use as your center. For the purpose of this video, I have a button because I have a lot of buttons. So, and it's fun. So for the button or anything that is 3D like this, three-dimensional, I again am going to use the liquid glue. And I'm going to be generous because it needs to hold on to multiple layers of paper here. And I'm going to place that down, and then I'm going to find my handy dandy acrylic block or two. Oh, that was difficult, but I had to find some balance there. It's not quite perfect, but I want it to dry evenly. So we're going to let that dry for a while. Alright, so I think it's safe to handle. This is not completely dry, but it's mostly dry. Look, it's still pretty wet. Can you see that? But I want to get moving. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. Again, I'm going to use the same glue. And you can kind of see the back, how it looks pretty well centered. And I would like my flower centered left and right for sure. but I think I want it kind of closer to the top, like in my example card. So, and then I'm just going to press this down. And again, I can try to balance my block on here. I need a heavier block. I know. I grabbed the wrong one, yeah. I have a heavier one here. Oh my goodness. Except it's going to be hard to balance it. Well, we'll give it a minute, or not even a minute, a little bit on that. So now you're going to need some scrap fibers. Or, if you don't want to do that, you know, you can just draw a line. That's fine. In fact, some of my other card examples had one with just a pen for the stem. But since this is a fabulous mixed media card here, I have a scrap of ribbon this time. For this one I have yarn. This one I have ribbon. And actually, I don't trust myself to get it straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a guideline. And then I'm just going to take the straight edge and travel up to my flower with it. In fact, I probably should have done this before putting my flower on, but since, you know, I got some time here, I'm gonna do it and see if I can't slip it under. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and add your yarn or ribbon before you place your flower head down, it's a little bit easier. So you do a line of glue there. If you're using hot glue, be super careful. I always burn myself with hot glue. And if you have a pair of tweezers handy, that's great because, like, of course this one's not working. Grab a different pair. I think I've ruined that one. I want to just pull this up because I didn't wait. And then, yeah, and then my fingers stay clean. And another thing handy is a little piece of scrap paper. Make sure it's not too dirty or your card will get dirty, but then I'm not going to get any glue squishing out on my fingers. You can also use paper towel. There. Now, isn't that lovely? So, for the leaves, on this card I was going with kind of a monochromatic, and since my card base was blue, I thought the red really popped, and that's why the yarn is pink, and the petal, or not the petals, excuse me, the leaves are pink. For this card, it's still in the same color family, you know, they're, what is it when they're next to each other? I can't think. Video brain. But anyway, green and blue are similar, next to each other on the color wheel. So what you want now is, I have a template because then I can make it the same, but I just drew a leaf shape. And if you have a leaf shape in your dies or anything, go ahead and use that. That's fine too. But this is, you know, the hand cut look here. So I have my little template for my leaf shape. The template is good for, you know, having the two leaves be the same, or you can have them be different as well. But the other thing you can do if you only want to cut once, which is what I did with this card, is fold your paper in half if you have enough of the green. Now again, I wanted, this one can be single-sided, I wanted to use the same pattern for each leaf, but if you were going with a patchwork look, you could have different patterns on your petals, you know, see what you like. So for that one, we're going to cut it out. Actually, before we cut it out, excuse me, I don't know, skipping steps here. Since I'm using a template, we're gonna trace it. Now, look at that, I'm not very good at tracing. I got a little thing, or you can just, you know, make whatever shape you want. It's just kind of an oval. It doesn't have to be perfect. Look at this one has a weird line. I could use that too. Just make sure you cut on the inside of your pencil lines, unless you want to tediously erase them afterwards. So cut that out, set this aside, and I have my two leaves that I could not pick up for some reason that I've cut out with this, tracing this template here. And you can use whatever adhesive you love to put those on. We're almost done with this card here. This tacky glue is great. I don't even need to get it all over because once I put it on the card, I think I'm going to go with the, what do you think? I went symmetrical before. Actually, okay, so what are she talking about? I went symmetrical with these leaves, but with my hand-drawn line, I went not symmetrical, basically, just an organic. And real flowers, their leaves aren't perfectly placed across from each other, so there's a choice there of your personal preference. The reason I think that I preferred, get out of here, glue, symmetrical on this, on the example I showed you, is because I had the yarn. And I just like how it kind of covers up the fiber thing and the two edges. So it sort of hides it a little bit, I don't know. But that was my thinking behind that, if you're wondering. So I'm going to go ahead and go symmetrical on this one as well. And then I need to trim off my excess here. A little bit of I have lots of this ribbon still, and we could be done right here. But I'm going to give this card a sentiment, and I, again, was thinking Mother's Day, and I couldn't find, like, I found some free printables, they're already done. I looked on Pinterest, and you just want to look for, you know, free printable, and some of them are easy to download, you don't have to, like, have special stuff. But I didn't find, I found a lot of, like, variety ones, and I am going to be teaching a workshop with this, and I just figured I wanted to have a lot of Happy Mother's Day sentiments available, so I went ahead into Microsoft Word and just typed it out. And so I have, actually, I can show you right here, a full sheet of lots and lots, but that's, you know, unique for my situation. I wanted to have enough for everyone. So I just did 3 different fonts, but yeah, it's a great idea for an easy, fast sentiment. I love stamping things, but it's a little harder with a group of people, and maybe some of them have never done this before. So this one's more accessible, shall we say, and just print it out, and then you have them on hand whenever you need them. So I have this one. It looks like kind of like a typewriter font, and I do love my little tails at the end. So I'm just going to cut roughly, eyeball it in the center, and then trim up to that center point to get my banner tails there. And then I'm just going to pick a spot on the card for the sentiment. And again, this could be a blank card, no sentiment at all, or and you could leave it blank until you need a sentiment and then just print one out. Or it could be any sentiment you need, like happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, happy anniversary, thinking of you, whoops, etc., etc. I had a little bit of glue on my finger, and I think it smeared my ink just a tad. So that's why it's so handy to have either a little clean paper towel or a little cleanish scrap of paper so that you can spread things without the mess. Oh, my little tiny triangle. And that is it for the first card design. And you can see it's got lots of lovely dimension. Super simple, great use of scraps. Now, let's check out the second design. Again, even easier. Alright, so our second one is more simple because it's mostly flat, not 3D. These are the 2 examples, and we're going to go ahead and do one similar to this because I'm going to do the pen one. This one I just had some scrap yarn. Again, it could be anything, ribbon, etc., etc. Going to set these aside, and again, I'm using another top folding card base to start. So, first thing is I kind of want to decide where I want my flower head to go. And I'm going to go with, where'd my pencil go? I don't even know, so I'll have to grab a different one. If I want these to be even, somewhere around there, just a little mark for reference. And then you need some scraps. Oh my goodness, I have a huge bin of scraps here, from which I've pulled some scrap gel prints. Yes, so that's what I'm going to use on this one. And I don't even know what this is going to look like. We're going to try it out together. and see what we get. I have, again, just a hand-drawn oval to use. Well, is this even an oval? You know, sort of. To use as a template. That way all of my petals will look the same. So I'm going to go ahead and trace them on here. This time I think I'm going to use a thicker, no, I'm going to use a thicker, darker lead. This is just a pencil. Oh, it helps if you don't move it while you're tracing it. And I'm just going to trace them out. So I got that one, and I am not going to think too much about this. I overthink everything, almost everything. If I give myself a chance, I will overthink it. What color, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to go and place it down and trace around and see what we come up with in the end. Lastly, ooh, I like this section. I am thinking about it there. So we're just going to get that one. And set my template aside for future use. Grab my scissors. This, can you even see that? Okay, now you can see that. You can see the lines. And again, since I don't want to have to erase, I'm going to go like as close to just inside the line as I can. So they might not be exactly identical, but they're going to be close enough to where it's not distracting because the petals are different shapes. So we'll just set that there for right now. You don't want to stay flat. I'm going to see how many uses there are for a large acrylic block. I'm using it for that. And then I think I'll just fast forward this trimming section and you can see what we come up with. Okay, so those are cut out. Before I get the glue out, here's my reference again in case you're forgetful like myself. And I'm just gonna arrange them where I think I want them. Make sure they fit, that's important. I think I'm gonna switch these two. Okay, I think I'm happy with this order at least. And then you get to glue them down. So, and again, my card is being so difficult to work with. I'm going to start with this one. A little bit of glue, and I'm using my tiny little dot for reference, and I just want to cover it up. Actually, it doesn't even matter if I cover it up because we're going to put something over the center. So then, now there's some creative freedom in this exercise. For sure, as with all of them, because, you know, you can have them be quite evenly spaced, as I have chosen, or you can have whatever variation you choose on that. Whatever looks good to your creative eye. But if you want to follow the pattern, this is what I'm doing. I don't want it to be too perfect because this is handmade, and this card has more of a like a whimsical, wonky look to it. Now I've got some glue where I don't necessarily want that showing up, so before that dries, wipe it off. If there's any residue left, I have, once it's completely dry, one of these handy dandy rubber erasers. And actually, I got this one at the dollar store and I cut it. So, affordable. If you don't have one of those and you're messy like me and work with liquid glue, it is a nice thing to have. So I think I like that. And I'm going to leave it. Now, I gotta bring in my buttons again. Actually, before I bring in my buttons and decide on a button, I'm going to go ahead and do a stem. And for this one, I could go straight down. I could use a ruler or I could freehand it. I am going to do like my other inspo, and I'm just going to do not a straight line. So the key is not straight. Before I have time to overthink it, I just, boom, it's done. And I just have a marker, any old green marker. I think it's easier for this one to have it be somewhat of a fine. This is a fine liner I got in an art box. So there it is. Boom, I did it. Now it doesn't quite connect, and actually, I don't know if you can see that with the shadow or not, but that's not going to show up because now it's time to pick a button. Ooh, I have so many. And you know what is speaking to me right here is the green section. No, that one's nice, but no. Do I have something a little more turquoise? There's one that's in here. Ooh, actually, I like that one. Okay, I'm gonna go with it before I can outthink it. Things are falling around here. And again, because it's three-dimensional and it needs to stick to paper, a generous amount of glue will persuade it to stay put. And that is what I want. And my nice, heavy, super useful acrylic block, which I actually do use with cling stamps occasionally. I have some big stamps, but I use it all the time. It's got to be handy because I use it for a lot more than that. And we need some leaves, don't we? So where did I put my leaf template? Surprisingly, it didn't take me that long to find, but I lost it already. Oh my goodness, shocking. So there's my leaf template, and I have traced it out onto another gel print. This one I believe it's, I don't know, some kind of thick cardstock, but I think it is either it's the brayering off, or it might be just inks. Because it's not acrylic paint. I'm pretty sure it's ink, and I'm not sure if it was, I think it looks like the brayering, the off brayering when you're gel printing. If I'm not making sense, check out my videos on gel printing. They're mostly, I don't think they're so much tutorials as they are just inspiration and fun to see what results you get. It's always fun to see what you get when you're gel printing, and I do love it. Although I have to have a good chunk of time, because if you think I'm messy with this little bit, you should see the process of gel printing. So here we have a couple leaves that I'm just going to cut inside. And this card's a little more wonky, so there's a little more freedom to be uneven, I think. Maybe. Not exactly the same. It's up to you. Look at how pretty that is. I love that look. Alright, and then I just need to decide where to put my leaves. And again, I think it would look good to be not even. We could put them exactly together, but because this card's a little bit more free, I'm going to put them in different places. And this is a thicker cardstock, so again, I'm going to be pretty generous on this as well. I already have it all over my fingers, so I'm going to grab it with my tweezer. This one, there. I'll put you right there. Thankfully I have my paper towel out already. And of course I'm slightly out of frame. Shame on me. Alright, I fixed that for you. I hope it's not too bad. I want to put this way, so I don't even think you have to line it up perfectly with your line, but I'm trying for that. So I'd like it to connect. Let's see. Oh, I got a lot of glue everywhere. There. Oh, it's so cute. I really wasn't sure how I was going to go with this because, you know, I'm so visual. I have to see it literally beforehand to know. So I have my little Happy Mother's Day sentiments, and I think I'm just going to, you know what, actually, I could stick one on there. Oh yes, I will. I'm all undecided. Let me go with the middle one. If I change my mind, I can pull it off, and there'll be a glue spot, but I can put a different one on there. It's okay. Let's see, I'm just going to hand cut this and hope I get it relatively straight. Woohoo! I think that was not too bad. Again, let's put a little banner in the end. Uh-oh. That, to my eye, does not look straight, so I'm going to fix that first. The silent concentration. Now, for this one, you may have noticed, maybe, that there's a little shadow here, that this tail sticks up some. So I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm going to put glue just on 2/3, 3/4 probably of it. Where'd my tweezers go? Tool. And just let me pick that up. I think right here is pretty good, and then I'm going to spread that out a bit, the glue. But remember, I didn't put it on the very end so that I can curl it up. You can use whatever, your fingers. That's a really, really hard bend there, so I think I want something just a little more subtle. The tweezers will help me with that, perhaps. There we go. And voila, c'est ça. I have a little bit of dimension down there. So this card is super simple. It's a great use of scraps. I really love how this one's turned out, and I didn't even know. And actually, if you want a little more dimension, look, I didn't glue this super well. So that's a happy little accident because it gives me this idea. Let's just use that, and I don't know if you can tell. Can you tell? Yeah, my little tips. Just a little bit of character. Now, of course, when I stick it, if I stick it in an envelope, those might flatten out some. But if you hand it to someone, whoops, I'm beating it up. Now it's going to have some distressed edges. You just got to go with what happens, right? And here's a little live demonstration of the rubber eraser. Love this thing. Get all that off. And that is that. So I'll bring in the 2 cards we made real quick. You know what, better yet, I'm going to put some stills on the end and maybe just a little jingle. And you can see some close-ups, and I really hope this inspires you and gives you some other ideas to use with scraps. And for the people that are in my little workshop, it's a great reference anytime you want to have a live view of what we did in the little class. Thanks again for watching, and as always, have a wonderful and creative day. Bye!